Hello everybody, welcome to our PantheraTV Live. Today is Thursday, April 22nd. It is Earth Day, so happy Earth Day to all of you from Panthera. We're very excited to have been sharing our campaign with you to help connect with cats to restore our Earth. And if you haven't seen our Earth Day video, please go to panthera.org, or you can see it here on our Instagram or our Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, and you can see how we've been connecting with cats around the globe to save them, the habitats they live in, and the people that live alongside them. So, getting set up for today. So today, for Earth Day, we have a very special Panthera TV Live because we are going to be talking to the director of Panthera Honduras, Franklin Castañeda. And we're going to be learning all about his work and their work down in Honduras and neighboring areas on jaguar and other wildcat conservations, and how this work has been impacted, especially over the last year with the COVID and pandemic, with hurricanes, and with everything else going on. So we're just going to give him a second to come on. Hello. Can you hear me okay? Hi, how are you? Great, thank you for joining us today for Panthera TV Live on Earth Day. I think there might be a little bit of a delay. Well, why don't you introduce yourself to all of our audience today?
My name is Franklin Castañeda. I work as a country director for Panthera in Honduras. I am a Honduran biologist. I've been working for Panthera here for over 12 years now. I'm also a husband and a father of two children.
So, can you tell us more about Honduras and why it's an important part of conservation efforts for jaguars and for other wildcats?
Do not have jaguars anymore. So now we have a very narrow um, stretch of habitat landscape up in the north area of Honduras that connects jaguar populations in Nicaragua, south in Nicaragua, to Guatemala in the north. And um, that connection is crucial. We lose this connection, we split the jaguar corridor in two, and we're going to have isolated populations in Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and from Honduras to the south. So we're working hard here trying to keep this connection.
Thank you. So what areas specifically do you work in? I know one of them is Jeanette Kawas National Park, but can you tell us about these areas and what you do there and why it's important?
Yes. We work in several areas in the north coast of Honduras, including Pico Bonito National Park, Custuco National Park. These two are mountainous areas with cloud forest and high mountains. But Janet Kawas National Park is a wetland, and it's probably the most important low area, coastal protected area, wetland area for jaguars in Honduras. And we have been working in Janet Kawas for the last 6 to 7 years alongside the local partners. Are still unsolved, or at least no one has been uh, found guilty. The government hasn't been able to persecute or find the persons who did it. But her heritage keeps alive. And the park was declared. The area continues to be protected, and more and more, every year, more and more people add up to our team, to the team of the people that want this protected area to live and tell the story of it. And we're fighting hard. It's not an easy fight, but a lot of problems in this area, a lot of threats to wildlife and habitat. But the dream of Janet Kawas is still alive. And in Panthera, we're trying to keep it that way.
That's very heartfelt, and I think it must really be an emotional connection for you guys working down there, knowing the history of the park and the people behind it and what you do. Um, and I'm seeing on the comments that we are having some sound issues, so just bear with us. We do have a bit of a connection, um, but yeah. So Panthera is proud to be working down there in the park with the other organizations, with local communities to keep that vision alive of protecting this important habitat that you said was wetlands habitat, correct? And the important habitat species that live there, including jaguars. So I want to ask about November and how the hurricane and storm events impacted you, and what did that do to your team and the local people, and how did that kind of change how you worked?
Yeah, so in November this past year, 2020, two very strong hurricanes impacted Honduras, like one right after the other one. And as I told you, Janet Kawas National Park is a wetland. And two of the largest rivers of the country and their course in that park, the Rio Ulua and the river Chamelecon. So you can imagine the big flood and destruction that was caused in that area. villages surrounding the park with people that lived in these villages. And they suffer, they lost all their crops. Many of them lost their homes. A lot of them lost their jobs because some of the company plantations, like the banana plantations, also were destroyed. And a lot of the people in these villages were working in these plantations, and the next day they didn't have a job. They lost their had to spend several days up in a tree while the waters started going down. A lot of them had to spend many days up in the roof of a house waiting for the waters to go down. So when the waters lowered down, there was nothing. Everything was destruction and death. All the domestic a lot of people died as well, and it was painful, but at the same time it was an amazing moment to see how people came together to help, and it became just, 2020 was the pandemic year, right? But in November for Honduras, we had a solidarity, this is what I call it, solidarity pandemia. It was just crazy how people was getting contagious with the desire to help others. And our organization was not the exception. And we stepped right in. And since we had all these connections built up for many years in this park, in the communities, in the villages, and we had, boats and trucks and our partners there, we put together a plan immediately, and we gathered food, we gathered clothes, diapers, water, because a lot of people did not have drinkable water during this time. We gathered everything we could and head out to the park. This time, our patrol team became a support team. And we were just heading over there, all over the places. We were visiting the villages and giving out food and water and clothes and things to the people. And it was so satisfying to find many other organizations in the midst of this destruction doing the same. And not only other Hondurans, but we even found people from other countries. Like I was just mentioning El Salvador at the beginning. We found a huge group of Salvadorians that had just flown in Honduras to help people there. So in the midst of the destruction and death, it was really a time to come together and be united.
That's a great story to hear. Obviously, our hearts go out to everyone who lost their lives and their property from the hurricanes, but knowing that coming together in light of tragedy is a silver lining, and we like to hear that kind of thing, especially because, Panthera, while we are dedicated to protecting wildcats, we are also protecting the people who live alongside them, and I think this is the perfect example of that. Because they teach us and we teach them, and together we can save wildcats and our planet. But I have an interesting question about the wildlife in response to the hurricanes. How did it change wildlife and their interactions with people both in rural and urban areas, and how did Panthera kind of respond to that?
This was interesting. Well, first, for the people, it was a good time to be in the park and in the area helping the people. Mm-hmm. It was they know us, so they have been working with us. They have been seeing us in the park for years, and they know who we are and what we're doing there, protecting jaguars. But this time we showed up there with all of our team and our partners, with our trucks and boats full of food and water and things, and they're like, oh, so now you now you know now that we're in the going through the worst crisis in our village, you guys come to help. You come to help, and they know, and somehow, you know, and they we could hear the kids, for example, saying, oh, those are the Jaguar people. Those are the Jaguar people that come to help. They come to help. The Jaguar people came to help. They gave us this. Oh, and because we also had, besides food and diapers and clothes and water, we put together just little bags of candy, chocolates and cookies for the kids, you know. And we had T-shirts with the text, I support Jaguar conservation, and we gave out these teachers to the kids, and so really I think it was a moment to become members of the community and feel with them the pain and the loss, and it was the Jaguar people there, you know. So that was good for wildlife. And the thing, going back to your question, the thing that happened right after that, see. It seems that the flooding, the huge flooding of the areas caused by the hurricanes, pushed a lot of wildlife out of their habitats, because right after the storms, in the following months, and we're still seeing it, but right after the storms in November and the following months, we started getting a lot of phone calls from people saying, there is a porcupine in my backyard. There is an anteater in front of my house. There is a crocodile in my garden, you know. And the thing, and this is really interesting. The people were not killing these animals. The people were calling. They were a little scared, you know. I mean, a crocodile in your garden, right? It's not a frog or a tiny lizard, it's a crocodile. So they were a little scared, but they didn't want to hurt the wildlife. They were calling us and other partners so that we could go and rescue these animals and bring them back to their habitat. So we put together, along with the government of Honduras, because everybody's getting these phone calls. The government is getting these phone calls. Other partners, other NGOs are getting this phone. The fire department, they're going crazy rescuing all these animals all over the place. And we put together a meeting, and we found out that our partners, government, fire departments, other NGOs, were rescuing this wildlife with their bare hands. They didn't really have the equipment needed to do this. So immediately we reached, in Panthera, we reached out to our donors and at Fish and Wildlife, the dairy company in Honduras, Lactosa, and we bought a lot of equipment for wildlife rescue. Some equipment we had to actually build it ourselves. And we put together this workshop. We brought an expert in. We put together everybody, and we gave them some training, and we donated out this equipment. And you wouldn't believe, I think after we did this workshop, at least there's about 100 cases in which all the partners, all the allies that went to this workshop and received equipment from us were able to rescue wildlife. And we put together this WhatsApp group, and they're always sending pictures of the equipment Panthera donated with some animal in there that somebody from the local communities called and said, please come and rescue this animal. We don't want this animal to be hurt by a vehicle or by someone that might be, not nice to the animal. And they would but now they had equipment and they had some training to respond. And it has been really fantastic that was another hurricane after effect, I call it, this wildlife rescue operation that it's working out very good. And now we're a lot better prepared to respond to this kind of situations.
That's fantastic. I think, I know I don't usually think about how wildlife is displaced after a storm event, but that makes so much sense that it creates such chaos for the communities that live alongside, this wildlife, and knowing that everyone's working together to relocate these lost creatures rather than harm them just reminds us of our connection to nature and being part of nature rather than apart from it. And I think that's really beautiful. You mentioned before that you have patrol teams on the ground. So can you talk a little bit about them and what they do and how they use science to protect the wildlife of Honduras?
Of course. This is when we started working in Panthera about 12 years ago. Very little was known about jaguars in Honduras. Almost nobody had worked with jaguars in Honduras. Different from Guatemala, Belize, Costa Rica, other countries that had a very long history of jaguar research. Mm-hmm. In Honduras, we had very little. We knew very little about jaguars. So when we started working here, we did a lot of research. At the beginning, we were just research, setting out camera traps and doing this kind of interviews and some genetic to find out about jaguars in Honduras. We did. And now we know where the critical areas are. Now we know where we need to focus our effort to protect jaguars best and to prioritize. So now at this moment, we are focusing especially in two areas, Cusuco National Park and Janet Caguas National Park, as I already mentioned. Mm-hmm. And for the last 6 years, we have been switching from research to site security, protection. And now we're working more with park ranger teams. That's what we do the most now. We continue to do research, but we are focusing more in protection and protecting these areas. And so we have park ranger teams in both areas, Janet Caguas and Cusuco National Park. And one thing we do, a lot of times you'd had a park ranger team patrolling. But you ask yourself the question, are they actually having an effect on the threats? Mm-hmm. I mean, how do we know? How do we know if they're just walking around and really the threats to wildlife or to the habitat are not being tackled? Mm-hmm. So one thing we have done for the past 3 years with the support from Fish and Wildlife and Lactosa is what we call the acoustic monitoring. And this is basically we set up, and also with support from the Cornell University. We set out, basically, I'm not going to go into details, but basically what we do is we set out these recorders in the forest. And these recorders can pick up the sounds of the forest up to 1 kilometer away. And with this, we are monitoring poaching activity through the sound of shotguns, firearms. So we have quantitative data of shotgun sounds. We know when they happen, what date of the week, what time of the day, and with that we're figuring out poachers' behavior and activity. Where and when. Okay. And when we answer these two questions, when and where poaching is more active, we can adapt our patrols. We send out our patrol teams, and now they are being more efficient. And even better, we can monitor the effect because we are starting to see less poaching activity, less sounds of firearms. We're starting to find less evidence of poaching, like the poaching platforms they use to hunt pacas. We monitored these platforms for the past 6 years, and we're seeing less. We're finding our park ranger teams are finding less platforms, and we know that not because. So this is the good thing about Panthera. We are science-based. It's not like our ranger team says, "Well, I feel like we've seen less hunting platforms."
Yeah.
No. We keep track of everything in this software called Smart Conservation Software.
Mm-hmm.
So every month, I know exactly how many hunting platforms the park rangers detected. We have pictures of them. We have coordinates, dates, time, and everything. And we're using this database in Smart is where we're seeing a reduction in this kind of evidence. So we feel our patrol team is being more efficient, and it's actually having an effect in poaching, for example. So that is very encouraging to see, not just for us, and I mean, like, the directors in Panthera, but also for the park rangers. They get so motivated, and this is another pandemic because we are being contagious. The enthusiasm of the park rangers is being contagious. Like now, the military is really like they are like really excited to work with us, and they're like, "Oh, we want to work with Panthera." And just this past weekend, we put together a patrol, Panthera and the military, the government of Honduras through the ICF, and we confiscated 3 shotguns. Talking about Sunday, this past Sunday, confiscated 3 shotguns, and the buffalo identified heading back to the park and take care of this threats. So we're very excited. I think one thing that describes Panthera in Honduras is more actions, less words.
I like that. That's a great way to describe it. And I think it must be so encouraging to have this evidence that the efforts are working, especially when you're trying to protect animals like jaguars, which you don't really get to see in the wild, and especially in a place where they're rare to begin with. Although you've seen one, right?
Yes, that's true. You want me to tell you a story about that one?
I would love to hear that. Yes, please tell us about it.
All right. Well, and I wanted to show you a few things here. I've been working with camera traps for about 20 years. And I don't know, Jamie, if you recognize this.
Looks like a PantheraCam.
Uh-uh.
What is
You're
it?
a millennial. You're a millennial, right? This is, Jamie, some of the first cameras we used, biologists used many years ago, beginning in the 90s. This camera, you probably didn't ever use. Did you ever use a camera that I don't know how you say it in English, but that uses a film?
Yes.
And you
Like
had to put it in and
yes.
all right, well, this is one of them. So
Wow.
we started using this many years ago. It's not a PantheraCam, it's a cam tracker. Famous cameras at that time. You only had 24 shots.
Oh no.
That's it. You had 24 shots and a lot of problems with humidity and heat and everything. So now we have this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is PantheraCam Potion Cam with this antenna, sends the image directly to your cell phone. And you have up to, what, 20,000 shots in here?
Much better.
I would say much better, but for years I was setting up camera traps. I'm very happy now that Panthera has built this new technology, and that now we are using these new cameras. And not only 24 shots like at the beginning, but one thing is to set up a camera trap and get a picture in a camera trap, but I had always dreamed to see a jaguar in the wild, and if possible, be able to photograph a jaguar with my camera. So this happened about 3 years ago in northeastern Honduras. I went to an area that I had never been in before. And the day I got there, I started seeing a lot of jaguar tracks, and I knew from experience, this is not normal. There's a lot of jaguar tracks here. This is a special place. And one afternoon, we found evidence of, an animal, prey. It looked like an animal that was being eaten by a predator. And it was about 4 in the afternoon, so I asked my team to help me put my hammock up in a tree, and I told them to leave. And I stayed there in my hammock with my camera waiting for dark.
Wow. That sounds a little scary.
It wasn't scary at the moment, but I'll tell you what happened. When it became dark, it was, I don't know, for some reason, that was such a quiet and warm night. It was nothing, no breeze, no wind. I was sweating like crazy, and the mosquitoes were eating me up alive. And I would just sit there quiet. I didn't want to move a bit because, I'm thinking in my head, maybe a jaguar is going to show up. A couple hours went by, and I was getting tired of just being there, eaten by mosquitoes and sweating and not moving. And then I see this shadow. And I was able to barely see a shadow moving low in the ground. Interestingly, even though it was the dry season and a lot of dry leaves in the floor, you couldn't hear anything. It felt, the animal wasn't making any sound. It was like it was floating in the air. That's the characteristic of cats, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wow, what is that? So I allowed the animal to come a little closer. I didn't know what it was. All I could see was a dark shadow. I had my headlamp and my camera. When it was in front of me, about maybe 10 meters away, I turned on my flashlight, and there it was. My first jaguar in the wild, and right away, my heart is like boom, 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 boom. I take the jaguar does not react to my flashlight at all. I turn on my flashlight, I see the jaguar, and the jaguar is like nothing happened. It keeps walking slowly. But when I shoot my first picture, the jaguar stops, lifts the head, starts milling around the air, and then turns directly to my tree and looks at my tree and starts walking towards my tree. Oh. That's when it got scary. Yeah. Yes, that's when, it was, even being a jaguar biologist, knowing that jaguars do not attack people. Jaguars do not attack people. They don't. But still, that was my first time being all by myself in the middle of the jungle with a jaguar, without a wire fence in front of me, right? With nothing in front, and between the jaguar and me, my camera, I guess. And so the animal walks towards me, and I'm like, uh-oh. But no, the animal stops at a certain distance, looks directly to me, and I think maybe even from shaking, I fire another picture, and that's the picture you see in the back. Can you see it?
Right there. Oh my goodness, that is a beautiful shot.
Yeah, I put it there. I was hoping you would ask me so I could show it. But anyway, that's the picture I took when the jaguar is looking directly to me. And I don't even know how I took that picture. It was just like, shot the camera, and then the jaguar just turned around and slowly disappeared back into the darkness. Oh man, that was so exciting. And then getting down from that tree into the dark, that was another story. But being able to see a jaguar in the wild, free in the wild, brings a lot of hope. It just makes you feel maybe our work is worth it. Maybe we are doing something. Maybe we're making a difference. And really, it was a female, and we named her Esperanza, which in Spanish means hope.
That's beautiful. I love that. I love that story. I know anyone listening is probably super jealous because the chance to see a jaguar in the wild is rare. And that's what I love about our audience and our supporters and our donors, is that just we all have a shared connection and love for wildcats. And unfortunately, most of us don't live somewhere where we're going to get to see them, but we still all want to help protect them and protect the habitats they live in and the communities that live alongside them. So what advice do you have for just everyday people around the world? How can we all help wildcats together?
Well, just like the hurricanes brought out the best of our people. Honduras is a country known for being violent. It's known for, unfortunately, it's also known for some organized crime. But those hurricanes show us and show the world that there's a lot of goodness, a lot of good, and a lot of solidarity in our people. So it's, I think the way to help wildcats is to find the best of the people around them. There's always goodness in the people around them. Yeah, there's always problems too. There's always poachers, there's always fires and deforestation, yes, and we have to fight it, and we have to fight that. But there's also a lot of good and in the people. And sometimes crises, like these hurricanes, bring it out. So when you see a crisis coming, don't think it's just a lot of bad and nothing good is going to come out of it. Maybe it's going to be a good turning point and a good moment to show what we're made out of.
That's beautifully said. I like that. And having worked here at Panthera for, over 2.5 years, I've seen the immense passion that our supporters and our audience have, and it's thanks to the people around the world who support us that we are able to provide funding for all of the conservation work around the globe, from Honduras to Asia to Africa to North America and everywhere in between that wildcats are found. And that's why this Earth Day, we're just so grateful for the support of everyone, and inviting everyone to continue this connection with cats, because it is integral to restoring our planet and restoring our Earth. And for those of you who haven't yet seen our Earth Day video, you can go to panthera.org and see it. And we invite you to watch the video and to connect with cats through our science, our videos. We have some fun quizzes, and to donate to our cause, to keep things going, to keep people like Franklin and his team working on the ground to see these amazing successes for wildcats and the people who live alongside them. So, Franklin, thank you so much for talking to us today for PantheraTV Live on Earth Day. It was a pleasure having you. Loved hearing your stories and the hopeful insights you have about your work down there, and I can't wait to hear more about the acoustic monitoring and the other work that you guys are doing down in Honduras.
Jamie, thanks for the invitation. It was a great pleasure to be here today with you and the audience. And I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, everyone. Be sure to follow Panthera Cats on Instagram, and happy Earth Day to everybody. Bye.
Happy Earth. Bye-bye.